Welcome to the Real Estate Majlis podcast, where we'll delve into the latest real estate insights and trends. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a first-time buyer, our podcast is here to provide valuable information and expert advice. This episode is powered by Bayut, the leading property platform in the UAE and proud member of the Dubizzle group. Whether you're buying, selling, or renting, Bayut connects you with real estate options that meet your needs using innovative tools like TruCheck and BayutGPT. Whether you're looking for a new home or a reliable platform to advertise your listings, choose Bayut, where you'll find real photos, real prices, and real properties.
Welcome to Real Estate Majlis. Today we have with us a very well-known industry leader here in Dubai, Mr. Haider Khan, the CEO of Bayut and Dubizzle. Well-known figure in Dubai real estate market.
Thank you for the opportunity, guys.
Yeah, welcome.
So can you tell us more about Bayut, the story of Bayut, and what kind of contribution you were looking at from that time?
So Bayut started back in 2008. I have two brothers. They founded the company back in 2008. And then I moved here in 2014. And you could possibly look at the market and say that 2014 was kind of a peak of the market
Yes.
at that time. And then since then, we kind of had a decline in the real estate market all the way up to COVID before things started picking up again. So it's a very interesting journey for me personally. I came here and I used to be in the US and I came here and the reason was fairly simple. I saw the platform and I thought there's a lot more that can be done, especially when it comes to data and transparency. There were other options in the market at that time, including Dubizzle, which we run today. And Dubizzle was perhaps the largest at that time. But I just felt like there's a lot more transparency that can be brought into the market. And I've always been an advocate for transparency because once that comes in, people make informed decisions. And I think that's a true testament to the stability of the market when people actually know the data and then they make that decision, as opposed to just getting excited about something and getting into and buying things. So that was just felt that we could build some platform that could really, really kind of make that available to the market and hopefully move the needle in the right direction.
I think over the last few years, since the establishment of freehold, people sometimes they forget that the market has run so fast and the laws and regulations, they come almost behind. There was almost that inability to have the same balance of have up-to-date information, whether it was data, whether it's regulations or regulatory framework, and the market was progressing so fast. The UAE, it's in terms of innovation, is setting itself apart. But you still have other countries in the region that are behind.
Yep.
And do you see yourself expanding to other countries? And where do you see the market going?
What's really interesting is then if we look at the segments of the market, you have the primary and the secondary segment. And secondary is all the existing homes that are for sale. Primary is the new build that's coming to the market. If you look at a lot of the Western markets, or let's say the more mature, more advanced markets, they tend to be very large secondary markets. And I think Dubai has done really well in that respect, that over the last 20, 30 years, we've built a pretty healthy secondary market. And I think generally what we're seeing, one trend we're seeing in the region is that there's a lot of primary market being developed right now. So it might take 5 years, 10 years, 15 years for it to become secondary, where the person who bought it is now looking to sell it because they need to upgrade their home or move to a different location. So I think that's one trend. So it's early on, I think, in the region. You see a lot of development, a lot of infrastructure being put in place, whereas I think Dubai is, and generally the UAE, I think, is ahead in that game.
Correct.
And then, PropTech, it's one of those interesting words because you can put a lot of stuff under PropTech, right?
True.
I mean, it's anything from, we run a portal, which is more of an advertising platform, but then there's PropTech related to management of buildings, how buildings are being built, software that goes into essentially running the operations, a lot of stuff. And I think there's all of those areas are going to see progress in the next few years because people only have come to expect the best from this region, right? So I think there's plenty of opportunity and I think people are going to get it in and do some really, really cool things. Yep.
But do you think that the end-to-end process will be the future when it comes to marketplaces? Do you think people are going to be able to transact and conclude the sale on the portal and then do the transfer without having to leave their homes? Do you think this is a possible?
Yeah, I think certainly we need to move the needle in that respect. But having said that, even if you look at some of the more advanced markets, or let's just say markets that have had more time to evolve over the years, right? more mature markets. You look at any market in the West, nothing's still transacting. Homes are not transacting online. So I don't see that happening in the next 5 years, 8 years. Certainly the process can be a lot easier, but it's just one of those things. It's the largest purchase most people make, and you want to see what you're buying. Now, having said that, I mean, we do sell a lot of off-plan here, which is bought without even looking at it. Yeah. So I think there's opportunity in making things a lot easier, where certain things can and should be online. But I think if it's an existing property, people probably want to go and have a look and see what's actually inside. A lot of times you have an idea of, I want the living room to be here, and you're never going to find exactly what you're looking for, but just walking through the house gives you a feel to it, right? At least that's how I think about it.
We always say that investors should go and inspect even the neighborhood. A lot of people come to our offices, say we bought something, we haven't seen it. Then when we moved in, we started to see something, the smell, the location, the noise of their neighborhood. So and that's why we recommend people do that extra stuff.
I got this advice way back when I was buying my first house back in the US. It said, if you really want to figure out if you want to buy in that neighborhood, go there at 7 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, park your car, and then drive from there to work to see what the commute is like, right? Just to get a feel, and just the road noise also, just to get a feel for it, just go there.
And the traffic as well.
And the traffic, right? And the traffic, just because you're going to drive to work, how bad is your commute, right? And now things have become easier. I mean, you can go to Google and you can specify, I go to work at 7:30, it kind of give you a rough idea of what's happening. So those tools didn't exist back then. So that's why I say things tend to get easier. But there's a lot of things that, especially when you're looking at secondary homes, simple things which with age, you even need to measure the foundation level, and you see, is there sagging in some corner or not? And what do you do about that? Things that I haven't seen yet be a big issue, but as time progresses, houses do settle, and even those kind of things. So there's a lot of stuff that you just want to have a look at. Is the wiring up to regulation? And all those things, I do expect that they're going to come more and more.
I think it's like surveyors and people will want doing certain detailed inspections because buying a home. But in another way, there's so many international buyers that are investing here, and they are not necessarily visiting the homes, and they just trusting the broker with videos and pictures. And I have a friend who runs a legal practice, and the amount of cases, because when they come and see the property to what was in the pictures is insane. So
I personally would like to see what I'm buying.
Sure.
Obviously, as I said, if you buy off plan, you kind of have to trust, and that's where you go on the reputation of the developer more than I would say anything else. Like it's really like what have they done in the past? Have they delivered on time? What's the quality? And all of those kind of things do matter, right?
Haider, I have a question for you as a new buyer. You're in the market and you want to buy something here in Dubai. How should I use the tool like Bayut? Like, do I go and take the prices as final? Is there any guidance on who's the best broker? What's the best property, the neighborhood, the amenities, the infrastructure? I mean, how do I use the tool in a way that I don't do mistakes?
So we've built a lot of content around this over the years, where we've pretty much written in more detail, and there's dynamic content in there as well about all of the areas and what are the key salient features of certain areas. So if you're starting from the very beginning, that's where I would recommend you go and you read the guides and understand what is this area good for. I think the other tool that's very powerful is go look at the transactions that are happening. And then that kind of gives you an idea of the volume and the value of transactions. And Bayut has, thanks to our partnership with the DLD, we get the data from DLD, and then we do a lot of stuff on our side as well to just clean it up and make it more digestible for people. But go and have a look, and you can start understanding what is the volume of transactions that is happening in a certain area, what kind of properties are selling in that area. If you're looking for an investment property or you're looking for yourself, if you're looking for an investment property, that becomes even more important. Is it a 1-bedroom that's moving faster? Is it a 2-bedroom? And then just look at, we update the data on a daily basis. So you can actually go and look at what's transacted even yesterday. Please do understand that this is a very seller's market right now.
Of course.
So things do move pretty quickly. Like when you look at those prices, maybe you might have to pay a little bit more than that, but not too much more than that. Right? But again, I think what it really comes, and then for the same properties, you can even see the rental yield, and you can see how much are they renting for, if it's vacant or if it's renewal. You can see, you can understand all the data. Those are the things that I would look at as an investor if I were looking to buy something for ROI. We launched this new tool, and I would highly encourage you to use it. It's called BayutGPT. You can actually just talk to it. And now you don't even have to do any of that research. You can actually just go and say, tell me the top areas, where should I be investing? And it actually has a proper conversation with you. And it can give you all the details. It can give you rental yields. It can give you transactions. It can tell you, you can even start giving you properties. Look at this property. This is probably what you're looking for once you've had that dialogue with it. And this is what I see the future as. It's, you know, it's a lot more conversational as opposed to, because when you have to use filters, it's very tricky. I mean, where do I start? Back to the same question that you just asked. But when it's with GPT and we've spent a lot of effort on it, we're the only ones. I don't know who else in the world is doing it. You know, forget about the UAE. Just anybody in the world. I haven't seen it yet. But it's a very natural conversation, and it actually really helps you with all the points, and actually helps you guides you to exactly what you're looking for. So
prices, rent,
everything,
best area, best broker.
Keep asking, and it keeps answering, and keeps, and not only just answering, but it keeps moving the conversation in the right direction to get you to that. Eventually, then it says, okay, you know, now we've understood. Do we both agree on this? Yes. Okay, let me start showing you the properties that match this criteria. So
BayutGPT is a very new tool that you came up with, and that's you should be the starting point.
It should be the starting point, absolutely, because you can be a novice or you can be an expert. It works for both. And it has as I said, it's basically what we've done is we've taken all of the data that we have and we're feeding it into BayutGPT. So it has a complete idea of our universe, everything that we've written to everything that happens behind the scenes, even the demand side of how many people are viewing certain properties. So it's built on a lot of knowledge.
Customers, buyers, tenants, they get extremely frustrated when they go online, and this is general, and they find a property they think is available and the listing is not available. And you call the broker, oh, we just rented. Oh, it's on offer. And I think and I did this exercise the other day, out of 10 listings you call, probably 7, there's some story behind it. So it's very frustrating for buyers. How do we resolve this?
Bayut, and we're the only ones who do this, we have this feature called TruCheck, where we basically ask the broker, once they've submitted the documents for the property, we ask the broker to go to the property, physically to the property, and take a snapshot from our app, which is geotagged. So that comes back to us, and we say, okay, well, this is the exact same property. Because it's geotagged, we know it's a villa, and we say, okay, we have a certain criteria, you have to take it like this. And when they take the picture, we get it back and we look at it and we're like, yes, this is the same property. So in fact, if you look at those TruCheck listings, we even said this agent visited the property on this and this date.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and we naturally promote all of those listings on top.
Okay.
So there's an incentive for the broker to actually go and do a TruCheck, which is they'll get a better ranking, more visibility on the platform.
Okay.
And you know, when we started this, we announced this 5 years ago, and things take a little while
to people understand.
To get people to adopt them, to understand the true value. You know, we started with a handful of listings, right? And you know, now today close to between 15,000 and 20,000 listings are TruChecked every month. So that's a huge upswing that we've seen over the years, and we've been working on it constantly. Just because I, as an end user, have the same pain. You know, when I'm looking to rent, and I go and I call and like, this is not available or that's not available, I'm like, oh, this is not okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we were doing on our own. And lately, you know, we've partnered very closely with the DLD also in terms of making sure they have this initiative of QR codes to make sure that you have the permit from the DLD when it comes to Dubai, making sure that the permit is valid and it is for that property. And in fact, to the point, you know, so we actually have removed about, I would say, as I said, we're taking this very seriously over the course of the last maybe month and a half, 2 months, since we've been actively working on this. We've taken down about 30 to 35% of the listings.
Yeah, and
on the
I agree.
platform.
And
Right.
there's no other option.
And not because even though it's not in our best commercial interest to do that, we did that because it's in the best interest of the market. And what I mean by taking down is that they were just unpublished.
Yep.
And we said you cannot publish them again till you actually do this. Now, what we've also done working with the DLD on this is that we have given the people to instantly validate their listings. So essentially, when they specify that they actually have a real permit, we can piece together information from 2-3 different areas from the DLD and say, okay, this everything checks out on this. Or we can guide them that this is not matching or that's not matching. So I think we've made a lot of progress over the years, and we continue to make progress. And hopefully, and as I said, on Bayut, in any case, if you go, you will find TruCheck listings above the other listings anyway. But we've also removed those listings. So I think you're going to see a marked improvement and a difference going forward. And that's best for everybody. It's best for the brokers. It's best for the market in general. It's definitely best for the market, but I think brokers also need to understand it's best for them also.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As you know, the property search starts online, not with the broker necessarily. So today, the pathway where consumers can find information, market transactions is widely available. If you would give an advice to a broker today, what would that be?
Real estate is all about servicing your clients, right? And I think the only advice I would have is just be really, really good at that. Have the best interest of the person you're dealing with at heart. This market, sometimes we have brokers representing both parties. Sometimes there's a single broker. And I think if a broker can just truly represent either the buyer or the seller, then you're representing the best interest.
Have a clear separation.
Yes, right. So I like that setup because then you are on my side.
Yes.
Right, as opposed to trying to broker a deal. And it's not broker a deal, it's broker the best deal for me. That's what I care about. So I think if we can move more towards a market where there is a formal relationship, which is, okay, I am the buyer's broker and you're the seller's broker. Okay, now let's broker a deal with both parties get represented properly. I think that, because at the end of the day, and I've seen this firsthand and through other people that I know, if you do genuinely find a good broker, typically your starting point changes. You say, okay, next time I want to do something, let me call my broker and then just at least have a chat. And that chat can then just lead to, you don't even have to, they'll do the work for you. They're like, okay, what are you looking for? Let me help you out, et cetera. And I've known people who use the same broker over and over again, right? And so I think that relationship is so key. Please own it and do justice to it. Just give me this sense and act in that way where you are acting on my behalf in my best interest.
And change the mindset of quick wins, right? A lot of the time it's all about closing the deal, and it's very hard to see a broker that's prepared to walk away if that particular transaction is not in the best interest of the customer. So I think it's a collective effort, but you're right, with all the technology information available, it's going to get very hard for someone to want to work with a broker if they are not at level with the service they offer.
Yeah. I mean, and I think when we talked about buying a property without seeing it, it's a factor of trust, right? So if I'm buying an investment property, okay, if I'm buying for myself, I would like to see it. If I'm buying for investment, if I have high trust, let's say in you as my broker, and we have that relationship over the years, then it just becomes that much easier. I think you pointed out something that's a really good point, which is there are just no quick wins in life. I mean, forget about brokerages or real estate. There's just, they say success is earned, right? And the rent is due every day. Yeah. I mean, it is due every day. It's just, and the day you stop paying, the day you stop putting in the effort, things start falling apart. So I think it's very, very important to not have this mindset of, okay, well, maybe this lead wants to convert now, so this is more important than the other lead. You just don't know. Maybe this lead will convert once. Maybe that lead will convert 10 times.
Haider, you see a lot of data.
Yes,
I'm sure. DLD data,
A lot of gray
own,
hair. Yeah, sure.
your own data,
Sure,
you took
yeah.
a lot to the market. So what kind of trends you see in the market? Do we buy? Do we sell? First question. Do we rent? Do we own?
Yeah.
If we ask these questions, what's your best answer for that?
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
Typically, I start with a disclaimer because
disclaimers are not allowed.
This is my personal opinion.
It's real.
Personally,
It's personal opinion, right? So, look, I mean, I think so. That's why I say, you do your own research. This is a decision that everybody, at the end of the day, when you're putting the pen to paper, you need to make that decision, right? Sure, everybody is going to have opinions. You can listen to opinions, and people who are involved more with the market will have maybe a bit more of a nuanced opinion. I think there's a lot of things that are very, very positive when I look at the market, right? So if we just talk about how it's set up, right now you can buy, and that's been the case, you can buy a property, you can put it on rent, and we can talk about it separately where the rents are, but the rents are good. Your yield is pretty good, but there's no property tax over here. You don't pay property tax. You do pay a service fee. That's to upkeep the area and all of that. That's fine, the common areas, but there's no property tax over here.
True.
All right, so that's a big plus. So your net yield is going to be much higher generally over here. And I think if I just look at the value of the property, especially post-pandemic, if you look westwards, I have seen such acceleration of prices in the US and other markets where properties have literally practically, they're 2.5, 3 times of what they were just before COVID. Now, if I look at from a price perspective, a comparison, I find the Dubai real estate still pretty economical. In all sorts of different segments. I mean, sure, there's a luxury segment, but I think that's. But if we generally talk about the mid segment, I find it very attractive even now. And the yields are good. The mortgage system is in place, so you can finance your properties. There's no property tax. So your net income is pretty healthy, and it's a pretty. Real estate is also generally has been traditionally a good hedge against inflation as well.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're worried about global inflation, all of that, real estate tends to. It's one of those assets. I mean, you don't have that many. I mean, you have gold, real estate, a few. And I think if you look at the trends, I mean, people are still buying. Last month, we did almost 38 billion dirhams worth of transactions in Dubai.
That's Dubai alone, let alone
That's
Russell
Dubai.
came in Abu Dhabi, who's also moving fast. Yeah.
Just if you use that as a proxy, I mean, it's very healthy. So, is it a good time to buy? I think it's a good time. Real estate, typically, if you can bear the cycles and you can hold it for a long period of time,
it's worth it.
Then you don't need to worry about the cycles and all of that.
Exactly.
Just have that mindset. Now, if you're trying to buy it and sell it within 6 months, I
think this is the problem, right? A lot of people, they enter the market with a view to flip, and that's not a wise decision. You might be successful like many. But that's very speculative, right? Yeah.
You might be or you might not be.
Exactly.
Right? And if you are, if you're not, then
so you need to be prepared for the loss as well.
But we see transformation from the data we've been looking at. We've seen that the holding period now in Dubai has moved to 4.5 years. So on average, an investor holds on a property for 4.5 years.
Oh, that's great.
If you look at numbers maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe this is half of it. Or actually, no, in the past is half of what it's now. So what we see now is we have long-term investors. We have people who are moving with families, kids, education, school, more of long-term arrangement. So that also helps with the stability of the market.
I mean, and I think I think the other thing is the secondary market has, you go back 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was a lot of off-plan being built that was delivered. Yeah. Now people have that. And in fact, historically the term flipping is being used to, for secondary market where you have a house and you say, okay, I'll buy it or whatever, I lived in it, now let me just flip it and go to another house, right? Secondary market flipping also has come in now. You're starting to see people actually upgrade the properties and then sell it. But I think there's just a healthy secondary market. And there are very few assets that allow cash flow generation. Real estate is one of those assets.
Exactly.
So if you have a good cash flow equation, why would you want to disturb it?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the money anyway? I mean, where are you going to put it?
If you had a wish list, what would you wish for the next 5 years?
That's an interesting one, because as soon as you said wish, I'm like, what do I wish for myself?
Not
Or the
retirement, please. Not retirement, please.
I wish to go on holiday.
Okay. I have a long wish list. No, I'm just kidding. No, look, I think what I would wish when it comes to the industry, what I would hope for is, and hopefully we can help play a part in this, is to just have a very, very clean, clear, transparent market where everybody makes decisions based on knowledge and information. I'd rather have somebody buy a property knowing that they're paying somebody, okay, maybe this person bought it at half the value, but that's okay, that's my decision, than not knowing. At the end of the day, I think we need good quality brokers in the market to represent my best interest. I mean, real estate is not complicated. We tend to complicate things, humans just generally do. But I do really hope that the quality of the service goes up on all fronts, and it becomes a lot easier to transact. And I think we're moving in that direction, but hopefully we can have a few catalysts along the way to kind of speed it up.
So the small brokers, they always come to us that it's very expensive for us to market our listings. So big companies, they go and they take, big expensive packages. So is there any things you thought about for small brokerage companies?
I mean, we've look. I mean, I think one is the big companies also, also tend to have larger amount of inventory, right?
Yeah.
So when you're starting small, I mean, and our pricing is not tied to you only have to buy a big package. Yeah. You can start small, and you. In fact, that's what I would recommend. You start small and you do have the few quick wins, and then you kind of build. Right? Now, if you look at it, it's interesting, and I'll share this perspective with you, which was new to me when I got involved with this. If you look at Google as an example, right? And Google for the longest has been saying that advertising on Google is not any different than advertising traditionally, whatever you did traditionally. So if we go back, forget the portals. If you go back and you think about a time where the only mediums of advertising were magazines or doing it outside.
Newspapers, yeah.
Right? Nobody said, okay, would you really think about putting up a billboard on Sheikh Zayed when you're starting off? The cost of that is not going to come down. So you don't start there. And I think the other thing which I would recommend is if you're getting into the real estate business is it's like any other business. You get into the restaurant business, you need to have some amount of money before you start to be able to sustain yourself for 6 months, 8 months, just pure business practice point of view. So I think, as I said, one is our pricing is very much based on the value that we deliver, and it's based on the properties that you're advertising. If it's more expensive, it's more expensive. If it's less expensive, it's less, costs you less. But when you're getting into this real estate brokerage, don't think it's an easy game. It's a long-term game. Have a proper business plan, and then be able to spend like that. I've seen plenty of companies that have come up from nothing and have become pretty big in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Right, and if that argument holds true, then that wouldn't have been the case for these people, right? But you just need to run it as a proper business, and obviously, I think we will always be champions for the guys, the little guys as well, because one of those little guys is going to be a big guy, and that's just how it is, right? But those are just my thoughts around that.
But that's wise advice. Walk before you run.
Yes, walk, crawl, walk.
Yeah, start crawling first,
and then run. But also run when you're able to compete at that, right? So just make sure your systems and your processes are rock solid. Don't let a single lead slip. Work on those things.
And that's a whole new episode about leads.
But because that's yes, that is, and we can talk about it at length about that as well. But
Haider, CEO of Bayut and Dubizzle, thank you so much for being with us today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.